Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame.
Overshooting on Tiger Woods?
Exactly. I was just thinking the same thing. Putting, going like 50% is all you need, but if you go over 51, it's going to go down the other side of the green.
In your head, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go full.
Right.
Or even like, from a driver. From the very first shot, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try and get to as close to the green, so I'm going to hit it my hardest.
That's right.
And you end up 20 yards in the rough over this way.
That's right.
But it's almost like that's what it was. He's like, okay, I got to give it 90%.
Yeah.
To get to the 1 yard line.
91.
yeah. Or that's 90% factoring in the collision that's going to happen before that.
Right. And he forgot the fact that he was in the rough, so the rough takes like 10% off of your swing.
And he's just like stops, just. That was weird.
Weird game, man, for sure.
Never seen that in my life.
No, that was funny. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's do this. I got the clock up and start. Not even gonna clear my throat this time. Not even gonna do it. Not even gonna do it.
All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm Jim Kerr.
Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame. Well, Jim, let's start out with the Super Bowl this week. Give me your overall thoughts here on the Super Bowl.
Okay, well, we'll just get this off our chest right now. We both picked wrong.
Yes.
I thought it was a shoo-in. I thought we had this.
Yeah.
But a mixture of injuries. Rob Gronkowski not being at 100% really hurt the New England Patriots, and you saw that as the game went on because he's the go-to guy on that team for Tom Brady.
Oh, definitely.
And when he's not the go-to guy, they become a less dynamic team.
Did you see the padding on his foot though? Did you see how big that was? Like that was crazy.
Looked like he was wearing one of those moon shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the longer the New York Giants kind of hung around, they obviously got off to a much better start than the Patriots did. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the New England taking such ridiculous penalties at the start of a game and coming out just looking shambolical.
Absolutely.
But they pulled it together, and then before the Madonna concert there, they looked like they were kind of the better team, and I think Brady made like 16 straight passes or something. No big deal.
No big deal.
But then it became a case of like they weren't able to put it away. They weren't able to get to get outside of striking distance, and the New York Giants, a good team in their own right, stuck around. A credit to Eli Manning. He's been phenomenal in fourth quarters all season.
Yeah.
And what does he do?
So different.
This was a bit of a strange game-winning touchdown, though.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I was going to say, you and I were texting during the game, and we're like, we've never seen a team give up a touchdown like that before, just like uncontested, and then from the opposite side, the New York Giants wanting to down themselves at the 1 yard line, and like he almost did it but didn't really do it. Like that, what a weird ending to a game.
Yeah, and when the commentator said, they made reference to the fact that they might try and go down at the 1. I wasn't picturing it like a guy by himself.
Yeah, that's right.
And you see him kind of go, oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Like sliding on ice in your car. Oh,
yeah.
Uh-oh. How do I stop? And he kind of puts the hand down and sort of
exactly. Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely. We go back to the end of the first half, just before the aforementioned Madonna, whatever that was, and that was a huge touchdown just before the half. Tom Brady putting together was 97-yard drive or something like that. He doesn't get that touchdown, the game's over. I think, even though they were going to start with the kick start with the receiving right after the second half, but just for me, Jim, it was with about 4 minutes remaining, it was that second last drive by the Patriots that was really confusing to me. The announcers kept talking about running time off the clock, but then he starts throwing some passes and some receivers start missing, and it didn't seem like it was a big deal. But then all of a sudden, the Giants have the ball with loads of time left, and one timeout, and the 2 minute the 2 minute clock. So I don't understand. It was an interesting game, that's for sure. There was lots of weird things going on.
Yeah, and the Giants got the ball back with enough time to really try and kill the clock. They were talking about the Patriots killing the clock with 4 or 5 minutes to go.
Weird.
I mean, that's a lot to ask. But that final attempt for the Patriots, a couple of, I would say, catchable balls. I mean, maybe not for you or I, but it seemed like there was still a chance for them. They dropped two balls. They caught one, and I was like, okay, well, maybe. And then it just they just couldn't get it going in that final stretch there. But it was interesting, some interesting coaching moves and some ups and downs for both teams. Some big catches. I believe it was Manningham there. The catch that set up the new set of downs that really got them into scoring position. But it wasn't the most exciting game, but it wasn't a dull game by any stretch.
No, that's true. Let's talk for a moment about how much I never want to see a commercial for a CTV television show ever again. Holy man. Couldn't they just import a couple of the American commercials? I mean, they've already got them made. Come on now.
Hey, Jeff, do you know where McDonald's gets its beef or eggs or potatoes?
Just over and over.
Same place that you get them, man.
And I think there was an A&W commercial that I swear to God was made 5 years ago. I'm like, didn't they? And I haven't seen it in 4 years, and they brought it back.
The doorman?
Yeah, the doorman commercial, totally. That was 5 years ago. What's going on?
Can't some Canadian companies step up and put together some sweet commercials?
Totally.
I don't understand how it's not as lucrative in Canada than it is in the U.S.
And like I said, they've already produced the commercials. They don't have to spend much more money to play it in Canada. I don't know. Except for, did you see that awesome Budweiser commercial where they brought in the crowd for the beer league game? That was absolutely fantastic.
I would love that.
Absolutely.
Maybe they can do that for our show.
Yeah, maybe they can do that for our show. That'd be great. Did you see, though, earlier in the week, though, Jim, the New York Giants website accidentally posted a Super Bowl champions graphic on Saturday? Seems like we see this kind of thing every year, whether it's the World Series in baseball or hockey or anything like that. But turns out to be a little prophetic there.
I guess they've got a psychic on staff,
I guess.
which is great.
Yeah, but
great. It's funny because there was a time when something like that could happen and no one would really notice, but no, now the internet is watching.
Exactly.
Always. And they're ready to take a screenshot. It's actually the NFL.com that broke the story, though, which is kind of funny.
That is interesting. Huh. You'd think they wouldn't want to highlight that. But hey, whatever. Just before we wrap up football talk, how about the Patriots, though, Jim? Cutting a guy right before the night before the game. That's unbelievable. How do you feel?
That is cold as ice.
That's so cold.
They cut Taquan Underwood to make space for another guy. And I understand you got to move things around, but that's got to be the harshest thing I've ever heard in my life. Totally. That's terrible. Right before the biggest game of your life. Sorry, buddy.
That's as cold as a night in New England in the middle of January, or beginning of February, if you will. Absolutely. Let's shift over to hockey now. Jim, I don't know if you saw this, but there was some sort of Edmonton Oiler sports hockey game this week where some sort of guy did some sort of thing. I didn't really catch it really because
didn't Sam Gagner get a touchdown, then kick the extra point or something?
Touchdown and kick the extra point. Converted touchdown with the extra 2 points, I think. On Thursday night, he got 8 points and then 3 more in a Saturday night win over the Wings. Let me tell you just a little anecdote. I didn't watch 1 minute of the game on Thursday. Not 1 minute of it. We're not going to get into why, but I didn't watch 1 minute of it. But I get home and my phone is just blown up. I got tweets, I got texts, I got everything. I go onto Twitter and literally Twitter just explodes onto my desk here for my computer. Absolutely amazing. I'm like, oh, did something happen? Did we land on the moon again? No, Sam Gagner got 8 points. Just as much that it might not have happened. Sorry, go ahead.
Trending worldwide, apparently.
That's right.
On Twitter. because once again, that's how we measure things in this day and age.
That's right.
I don't know how many tweets per second there was about it, but probably more than any other hockey story in the past.
That's right.
But, Gagne becomes the third Oiler to get 8 points in a game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Breaks Wayne Gretzky's record for points on consecutive team goals with 11. Scored a beautiful shootout goal versus the Red Wings. Just so confident right now, and he's just on one of those runs where it's like, give it to Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that confidence that next game, the encore game, as they were calling it, with Detroit. Like, he's just going straight towards the net. Nothing can touch him. It's great.
That shootout goal was unbelievable.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When he first broke into the league, I think he had that level of confidence where some of the stuff he was doing in the shootout, you're like, who is this guy?
Absolutely.
And then I think he got away from that a little bit, but the moves he was pulling off. But like you say, just driving straight to that. Even the one of the goals he scored, next to no time left on the clock, but he's just like, shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're letting it hit off him, and it just it's awesome to see. But it's amazing that two of your star players can get 4 points each. One of your star defensemen who's been hurt for ages can score a goal. Another, likewise for another one of them, your goalie can have a 40-some save night, but nobody talks about it or probably even knows about it because Sam Gagner was that good that night that there was really nothing else that mattered.
Absolutely. It was definitely a game for the ages. It'd be nice to see him do that a few more times. Well, maybe not 8 points, but, show up. So this goes right into the lots of trade talk that we've been seeing. So is Sam Gagner on the block now? Has he played himself off the trading block? Is there a chance that that GMs think he's the real deal? Let's start with Sam Gagner and what do you think about him?
Well, it's interesting because there was a lot of talk that he could be part of a deal. People might, other GMs might want him as part of a package because he's a 22-year-old kid this is his 5th year in the league, and he's a very consistent performer. And people maybe expect more from him or unrealistically want more from him. But when you actually look at the numbers, he's had a pretty solid career so far, and especially considering he was sort of rushed into things at the start of his career. But I don't think there was a lot of trade talk about him. I think there was talk that he might be kind of a secondary piece. That said, though, I think he, in the last little while here, may have played his way off. And I think it's not just these last 2 games. We've seen him struggling all season. Coach Tom Rennie made mention of it a few nights ago, saying like he's never complained once. He's never been you see some guys kind of get drama queeny about stuff when they're not on the line they want to be or they're not getting the ice time they want. He's never done that. He's just he was struggling to a point that Sam Gagner is not a fighter, but we've seen him fight a couple of times and hold his own and do actually quite well. But he talked about it after some of those games, saying like, well, I'm not scoring, so I got to do something with my hands. But I think he's developed, and you got to remember too, this is a 22-year-old kid, so I think the team thinks that he's really developing into something, that could be very valuable down the stretch, not just in the season, but in seasons to come. So I'm not sure they would be totally comfortable with, just throwing him in with any package as it was, but now that he's kind of lighting it up, you sort of want to see where this goes.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it, but a 22-year-old 5-year vet is not something that comes around all that often. And so it would be nice to see him here, but do we need another small-ish center, especially a guy who can't win that many faceoffs at this point? Maybe he gets a little stronger, maybe he does a little better as he grows older. Let's talk just a little bit more trade talk as well. You've got Ales Hemsky and even maybe the big man Andy Sutton, the old white stick, white tape Andy Sutton. What do you think about the chances of those guys going real quick?
I think if the Oilers are going to make a trade, it's going to involve Ales Hemsky because it's a contract year, I believe, and if it comes down to do we re-sign this guy he's probably going to want a decent chunk of change, or do we see what we can get for him now? I think they're leaning more towards that, because they've got skilled forwards. They've got a good core group of skilled forwards.
Yeah.
I feel like if they make a trade, he'll be involved. And there's a lot of talk that Andy Sutton could be shipped off to a team that's maybe looking for that last piece. Man, that guy's got good hands.
You
don't see it that often, but every now and then a couple games ago there. He's just, you see it and you're like, who is this guy?
No, absolutely.
But, yeah, I think I'd like to keep him around because, there is the outside chance that the Oilers can still be fighting for something. I think the Oilers need to be adding, not subtracting. And I know they'd get something back for Sutton, but maybe not necessarily the type of thing that they need, which is, of course, a couple of defensemen to round things out, and maybe another skilled forward. But I don't know. I think Hemsky's gone for sure. I feel like that's sort of the way it's happening, and Sutton might be thrown into the package. You don't know.
Well, I mean, you're right. With the win on Saturday, the Oilers have full points in 3 straight and 9 out of a possible 10 out of the last 5 games. So maybe there is an outside chance they could be going for something. I mean, they got to win a lot of games in the last 30.
They got to run the table.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have so far, so that's good.
Exactly. And maybe next week when you listen to us or watch us, we'll be talking a different tune. But, the past 5 starts have all been starts by Devin Dubnyk. Some 40-plus save games and stuff. Mind you, he's still letting in 4 goals a game over the past 2 games. But that's all right. We've been getting more goals. So what do you think about the Oilers and their past week and a half?
Well, just back to Sam Gagner. When they were talking to him after the big 8-point game, he was sort of asked the same sort of questions, and he was saying that my first year here, we were in this position. Everyone thought we were way out of it, and we missed the playoffs by a point.
Yeah.
So it can happen. And let's face it, it does happen every year to somebody. There's always a team that, whether it's from, it's not usually from last up to playoffs, but there's always a team that seems to be out of it and just goes on that run in the final 2 or 3 months. And, even the Red Wings did it a couple of years ago. They were, a ton of injuries and they were way out of it. I think they were actually below the cut line, but then they won like 19 of 20 or something.
Yeah.
And that's the Red Wings, but the Oilers just beat the Red Wings, and the Oilers have beat the Blackhawks. They beat a lot of good teams in the last stretch here. So, I think it's for them, it's very cliche to say, but, they take it game by game, just focus on getting the 2 points or even the 1 point every night. And, at some point you'll look back on your body of work there and be like, oh man, we've won most of our, 9 to 10 or whatever it is. The way they're playing right now, that's reality. A couple of weeks ago, you'd say, well, you're going to win 1 first.
But
right now, they're actually playing good hockey, and they're beating good teams. The key, as it was at the start of the season, though, is can they beat the bad teams?
Yes, absolutely.
So that as strange as it may sound, that might be the test for the Oilers. Yeah. They come up against the team that's not as good as like a Detroit or a Chicago.
Do they still show up?
They beat that team, yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. We're going to move on to Gabby's now. These are good and bad by you. Let's give a good this week, Jim, to 3 NHL milestones reached on Saturday. Ryan Miller picked up his 235th win, passing Dominik Hasek for the franchise record in Buffalo. Todd Bertuzzi's second of the night on Saturday was his 300th, and it was a beauty. Oh, it was great. Speaking of Andy Sutton, we just undressed him. And Marty St. Louis scored a hat trick in his 900th career game. He looked good too, especially I think it was LeCavier gave him the puck for the open net goal too in that one. Good for all those guys. Todd Bertuzzi has been quietly putting together an amazing end to his career in Detroit, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and maybe it's not the end yet the way he's playing.
Absolutely.
He's a big guy with some soft hands, and it's I'd like to see him stick around for a bit because I don't think he's totally run his course yet.
No kidding.
But a good this week to snowboarder Shaun White. The long red hair coming out the back of the tube. Yeah. He became the 3rd guy to 5-peat at an X Games event with a Super Pipe Gold. Finished things off with a perfect score of 100 on his final run. He already had things wrapped up by then, but he still went out and shot the lights out. That's the highest ever score in Super Pipe. Just adding to his legend at this point, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for him. You remember last year we reported this story too, and he'd had on his final run he didn't need to do anything either. He had already had it wrapped up, and he did like a 1540 or something like that. Somebody's going to do the math for me and let me know. I know, but it's amazing this guy can do this, and just when it doesn't matter, he goes out there and still does just amazing work. Absolutely amazing. Did you see the run? I mean, the run was amazing. It really was. It was absolutely perfect. Let's give a good to see, ladies and gentlemen. Jim likes to give me the hard names.
I do.
He likes to do this, which is fine. But I'm going to mangle them. So here we go. Let's give a good to Rubelos. That's what I'm going to say. Who is a pigeon, Jim, for Team Ruhu, that won the Sun City $1 Million Pigeon Race in South Africa last weekend in a record time of just under 9 hours, 8 hours and 56 minutes. The bird beat out almost 3,500 other birds, including entries from Her Majesty the Queen, and, as we've reported earlier on 15 Minutes of Fame, former heavyweight champion and noted pigeon enthusiast Mike Tyson. Good for Rubelos. I wonder what the highlights were of that.
Oh my goodness, I know.
Race.
That's why it's a sport, though. That's why it makes it into a sports show.
You know it.
Because Mike Tyson had a pigeon there.
Absolutely.
And so did the Queen.
So did the Queen.
It's just random in a lot of... We should have entered a pigeon.
We should have. That would have been great.
Should have. Next year.
Next year.
How about a bad to the 67 players suspended by the Zimbabwe Football Association this week in the wake of a long match-fixing scandal? Happens a lot in soccer. Happens a lot.
Seems too weird.
Several players admitted to taking money from an Asian betting syndicate during some friendly matches on Far East trips between 2007 and 2009. There was a similar thing that happened in cricket, I think, last year. But most of the national team is suspended over this, which is pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
So a bad
huge.
to them.
Big bad. Let's give a bad to the soccer fan who thought up a new way to get arrested this past week. During a midweek matchup between Everton and Man City, a professional protester named John Foley handcuffed himself, Jim, to the goalpost, causing about a 10-minute delay before they managed to cut him loose. He was apparently protesting the recruitment policy of an Irish airline, which that's the way to protest. Go lock yourself to a football field.
Occupy the goalpost.
Exactly.
Finally, a bad to Alex Radulov. Do you remember him, Jeff?
Crazy.
Do you remember Alex Radulov?
Yeah, I do.
He's over in the KHL at the moment, but he got some FaceTime in North America because a video surfaced of him drilling his coach with a slash while sitting on the bench. He was sitting there, I guess, and he just gave it one of those right over the shoulder. Oh, what?
And both guys, like the coach and Radulov, they just kind of go back to what they're doing afterwards.
Yeah. You know what the best part is? They both give it one of these.
Yeah.
Oh, you're bad? Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, that's good. Is that all you have to do?
I don't know.
Punch someone in the face and be like, oh, my bad.
My bad. Yeah.
Thought you were something else.
I don't know what that was, but
that's weird.
Yeah, get your stuff together, Radulov. The punchline this week, folks, is Minnesota Vikings running back Adrian Peterson, who is considering a number change on his jersey before next year, Jim.
Yeah, he was considering it until he was told that he'd have to buy up all of the remaining inventory of his number 28 jersey,
Crazy.
about $1 million worth of stuff, and he lost it on Twitter and said, yeah, okay, I'm not changing it.
No
He was saying, like, I only make $700,000 from my endorsement, and that's weird. I didn't realize it was such a big thing. I understand there'd be leftover inventory, but my goodness, making a guy pay $1 million to change his number?
That's exactly it. There's leftover inventory when players get traded. There's leftover inventory when players retire.
Teams have to pay for that?
Like, I don't understand. Like, why? Anyways, it was silly, but, I guess that's the way it's got to be.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. I got to say one thing, Jeff.
Sure.
I got to give a shout out to Greg Oden.
Yes.
I was so excited for this guy's NBA career when he first was drafted. I thought it was him and Kevin Durant neck and neck in the draft, and they chose Oden over Durant. Durant's had a great career. Greg Oden has undergone a 4th knee surgery since being drafted 4 seasons ago. Season might be over again. He's played 82 games in his career.
And he was going to be the next big thing, and he is. He's huge, and and remember his wrist was hurt.
He's played good when he's been in.
Oh yeah, he's been absolutely good. I remember him in the Final Four, and he was unbelievable. Yeah. And then got to the NBA, and just poor guy,
Well, and the story with him in college was he hurt his dominant hand.
Yeah.
So he was in a cast, and he learned to play as good with his other hand.
That's right.
And he's in there, and he's killing it. And I remember seeing the stories about that when he was still in college, being like, this guy's the best.
Absolutely.
So I remember I became a fan over that, and now he's just injury after injury. And it's not just knee surgeries. It's like the serious, like, micro fracture, intense, both knees, 4 surgeries, terrible. So, good luck, Greg. I hope you can come back. Maybe.
Good luck to Greg Oden. On that note, folks, our 15 Minutes of Fame are up for this week. Join us again next week when we get a whole new 15 Minutes of Fame. In the meantime, I am, as always, Jeffrey Driscoll.
And I'm more than likely, most of the time, Jim Kerr.
Have a good week, folks.